croissants from scratch. I've never made them before. I'm super excited to make them, and hopefully I don't fail because this uses a lot of butter and flour. So the blog I'm going to be following is called Sally's Baking Addiction, and I just love her blog. She makes a bunch of sweets and desserts. Honey, you can't be in the video. So yeah, so the blog I'm going to be following is called Sally's Baking Addiction. She is a self-taught baker, and all of her desserts are amazing. All of her food recipes are amazing. So I thought that'd be a great blog to start off with. So let's get started. Alright guys, in order to make this recipe, you're going to need flour, salt, butter, an egg, yeast, whole milk, and sugar. The first thing the recipe calls to do is to cut the butter in 4 1-tablespoon pieces. Just place the butter in the bowl. Alright guys, so to this mix, I'm going to be adding 4 cups of flour. Anytime you bake, you need to make sure you have precise measurements. I'll use my finger to make sure I have the exact measurement. So I kind of just do a little swipe. And then that way, it's going to be even every single time. So I'm just going to add 4 cups into the mixing bowl. I'm going to turn the mixing bowl on. And I'm just going to be adding my flour, 1 cup at a time. Alright guys, to the flour mixture I'm going to be adding 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm also going to be adding 2 teaspoons of salt. And after that I will be adding 1 tablespoon of yeast. Here's my tablespoon of yeast that I'm going to be adding to the bowl. So the next step the recipe calls to do is to turn the mixer on low-medium speed and gently combine the ingredients for about 1 minute. I love mixers because it makes it so much easier instead of doing everything by hand. And I'm just going to use my fingers to pick off some of the excess flour on top of the dough hook. And I'm just going to do this for a minute. The next thing I need to do to this is add 1½ cups cold milk. This is my ½ cup. And this is 1 cup. The next thing I need to do is to beat all of these ingredients for the next 5 minutes on medium-high speed. So the flour is kind of going everywhere, so I'm just going to run it on low for a little bit till it's kind of incorporated. Once I feel like the mixture is more incorporated where the flour doesn't puff up everywhere, I'm going to mix it on high heat. And I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes. According to the recipe, the dough should be pretty soft when this process is done. Anytime the dough kind of puffs up from the sides, I kind of just gently push it down without cutting my finger off. Kids, do not do that at home. You can always just turn the mixer off like this and then just push it down and then turn it back on again. The dough is pretty cold, as it should be since you're making croissants, and you always want to work with the dough when it's cold. So since I kind of feel like the mix is not fully getting into the blade, what I usually do is I lift this up and I just punch the mixture down, and then I start it on again. Make sure to lock your blade in place. So yeah guys, this is going to take a little bit of time. Alright, there you go guys. So it's kind of now getting mixed in with the blade, with the dough hook. And eventually it's going to all come together. And that's my daughter in the background. Honey, go find a chair, okay? We're gonna make cookies today, honey. No, this doesn't go in here. It's croissant, honey. I hope you guys can see this. It's kind of hard to film and do all this, but like, eventually the dough's gonna come together and it's gonna be easier to keep it attached to the dough hook. So just remember to do this step for about 5 minutes until the dough comes together and it's really soft. Now mind you, this is the first time I'm making this. So, honey, can you wait? Wait, honey. Close it. That's sugar. Close it, please. And then you press the top part, okay? Good job. Alright, so the next thing me and my assistant, my daughter here, are going to do is we're going to put the croissant dough on a plate. We're going to flatten it out a little bit, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for 30 minutes. Oh, and that is what what does it say, honey? Is that what the recipe says to do?
Yeah.
And I lift it up.
Yeah, going a little bit.
And I want to show you a close-up of what the dough looks like.
It's squishy.
It's squishy, honey.
Yeah, it's squishy. Let me get it out.
Here's the close-up of the dough. You can still see the yeast, little yeast bits in there, but it's very soft. Is it soft, honey?
Yeah.
All right, and this is my daughter. This is what happens when you bake with kids, guys. But onto the video. So I'm just gonna place the dough right here. It's very cold, right?
Whoa, big. It's squishy.
And we're just gonna put it onto the plate.
Okay, put it on plate.
Yep.
Whoa, my belly big.
You're too much. All right, so let's pat it into a ball, honey. Can you pat it into a ball?
I got it.
Honey, no, make it into a ball.
I got it. Whoa.
You gotta make it into a ball.
Yeah, a Maggie ball.
All right, so we're just gonna flatten it out. You wanna help me? No, don't put any sprinkles. This is croissant dough. So yeah, the recipe just says just to flatten it out, and then we're gonna go put it in the fridge for about, let's see, maybe like 30 minutes, right?
Wait.
And just kind of make it into a little, no honey. We're gonna just make it into a little rectangle. Doesn't need to be perfect, but yeah. Oh, sorry guys, completely got it out of focus. All right, as you can see what my daughter's doing, she's just flattening the dough out. Right, we're gonna make it into a square.
What?
No, stop, honey. Okay. All right, guys. Once we take the dough out, we're just gonna make it into a little square, and then I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap. All right, guys. So I have the dough in the fridge, and I'm gonna let it rest for 30 minutes. And there she goes. So this is what my dough looks like after it has rested in the fridge for 30 minutes. The next step in the recipe is to roll out a rectangle that is 14 by 10 inches wide, and that is what I'm going to do. And I have a little bit of parchment paper here, and this is a little measuring gadget that I use. So the next thing the recipe calls to do is roll out a 14 by 10 inch rectangle, and this is what I have here. I use a little tape measure to measure it out, and it is exactly 14 by 10 inches. So here's my dough. It has rested for 30 minutes, and I'm just gonna roll it out into this rectangle. And once I have it rolled out, I'm gonna place it in the fridge, covered to rest overnight, since it is nighttime right now. And honestly, I don't have any time to wait 4 hours and wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning to work on this croissant dough. And you can see it's a little bit sticky, so I am gonna add a little bit of flour, and that's gonna help me with rolling it out. And I'll show you guys how I do that. The dough smells amazing. And I'm really gonna try to work fast because croissant dough, you really want it to be cold. So I'm literally gonna use like just a little bit of flour. I'm gonna put it on the parchment paper just so my dough doesn't stick. And I'm just gonna try to roll this out into this rectangle. Now, it'd be a lot easier if I had a baking mat. Alright guys, so I'm going to use these as weights to hold this down. And I'm just gonna try my best to roll this out and make sure it is very even. So as I roll it out, I'm just gonna pat it down and then continue rolling. And just make sure you take your time when doing this step. So for the past about maybe like 5 minutes, I've just been rolling the dough out into a rectangle. And I'm just making sure it's super even. I'm using the rolling pin to roll it out. And I'm also using my hands, and I kind of find out using my hands is a little bit easier just to make sure it's a little bit even. And the dough kind of wants to pull away from itself. So just to make sure I got the corners and everything, I've just been using my fingers and just trying to just make sure that it stays in the 14 by 10 inch rectangle. And I'm just patting it down using my other finger to make sure it stays even and precise. I love working with dough. Ever since I was a little girl, I just always loved baking. I was one of the kids that had an easy bake oven and wanted an easy bake oven, but I didn't get it at first. It was expensive, so it took, you know, it took a little bit of time to get it, but then I finally got it when it was on sale, or maybe my mom got it at a garage sale, I don't really remember. But yeah, and I loved it, so I've always loved to bake. But that doesn't mean I'm always the best baker. Okay, so this is my 14 by 10 inch rectangle. Hope you guys can see that. I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap, and I'm gonna place it in the fridge overnight because it is nighttime right now. And I will let you guys see what it looks like in the morning. And I'm literally gonna place it, let's get paper. I'm literally gonna place it with the aluminum foil because I don't have a baking mat. And yeah, I'm just gonna place it in the fridge like that. I'm just gonna use the parchment paper to cover it to make sure it doesn't dry out. And then just gonna cover it, pop it in the fridge, and I will see you guys in the morning. I'm just gonna make sure the air is completely sealed in it. And this is another good reason, if you don't have a baking mat, make sure you put aluminum foil on the bottom. Put a little bit of parchment paper in the shape of the rectangle you need, which is 10 by 14 inches. And then, let me make sure I get some of these air bubbles out. Honestly, I don't even think it really matters, but OCD in me. Okay, cool. Alright, and then I'm just gonna fold it over with the aluminum foil. And then I'm literally gonna pop this in my fridge overnight. Hi guys, so today's the next day, and we're gonna get started on the butter layer. So according to the recipe, you are going to need 3 tablespoons of,
Bark.
So, according to the recipe, you're gonna need to use 3 sticks of butter, and this is what I have here. And to this mixture, you're gonna add 2 tablespoons of flour. And like I mentioned earlier, one way to make sure you have a precise measurement is to just use your finger. And voila, 1 tablespoon flour. And I'm gonna add 1 more. And then I'm just gonna mix this by hand until it is very smooth consistency. If you have a mixer, it'd be a lot easier to do it with that, but because I don't really feel like getting my mixer dirty, I'm just gonna get some, I'm gonna work out my arm muscles, so yeah. So I'm gonna pretty much be doing this, and as you guys can see, the butter comes together quite nicely with the flour. And I think the reason why the person who wrote this recipe did it this way, because it makes the butter a little bit more manageable when you laminate it with the dough. And if you don't know what laminating means, that basically means putting butter between layers of flour, and that's what gives croissants its flaky texture. So I'm going to be doing this for probably the next 5 minutes. And once this is done, I'm going to shape it into a rectangle, and then I'm going to place it back in the fridge for the next 30 minutes to let it harden. So once I'm done incorporating the flour and the butter, I'm going to smooth the butter into a 7 by 10 inch rectangle. So once you guys see me, that's what I'll be doing next. Alright guys, so this is me mixing the butter and flour after a couple minutes. You can see it's much easier to work with, and it is very smooth. So now I'm going to get started on rolling out the 7 by 10 inch rectangle. So my butter and flour mixture is completely soft, and I'm going to put it onto this sheet of plastic wrap, and I'm going to shape this into a 7 by 10 inch rectangle. Get all that buttery goodness. Don't you just love butter? Slap butter onto anything and it's just perfection. Hi guys, so we're back and we're going to begin the process of lynching. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We're already watching the same video. Sorry. Hi guys, so welcome back. No. Hi guys, so this is... Alright. So we're ready to do the second part of making croissants, and that is laminating the dough. And this is definitely the fun part and probably the most difficult part, and most likely the part you're gonna mess up and fail with. But, so hopefully you guys are gonna understand this tutorial, and we are going to get this done together because we're all amateur bakers, and yeah. So what we're gonna be doing is we're going to be getting our 14 by 10 inch rectangle, and we're also going to be getting our laminated dough that we made earlier, and this is going to be a 7 by 10 inch rectangle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be placing the butter layer in the middle of your laminated dough, and you're going to be folding the top half 1/3 up to encase the butter, and you're also going to be folding the bottom half 1/3 up to encase the butter. So you're almost like making it into a letter. Once that is done, you're going to be turning the dough so the short side is facing you. And this is where we're really, don't mind my dog. She's excited for these croissants, and so am I, so let's hope I don't mess them up because she's going to be pissed. But, so the next thing we're going to be doing is making sure that the short side of the dough that you encase the butter in is facing you, and that's very important. And once that is facing you, you're going to be grabbing your handy dandy rolling pin, and you're going to be rolling it out into a 10 by 20 inch rectangle. And once that's rolled out, you're going to fold it into a letter. So pretty much you can kind of use your fingers to section your dough into 3 little sections, and that could kind of give you a little guide point of where you need to fold the dough up into. And then once that's done, you're going to pop it in the fridge, and you're going to do that 45 minutes. You're pretty much going to be doing this 3 more times. So in total, you're going to have 4 turns. And you're going to do the same thing. Make sure the butter is facing you with the short side. You're going to roll it out into that long rectangle, and then you're going to fold it up back into a letter. And that is what is creating those butter flaky layers. And once that's done, you're going to wrap it up, put it back in the fridge for another 45 minutes. After the 45 minutes is over, you're going to pretty much be doing that same process. And on the last turn, you're actually going to be placing it in the fridge overnight, and this just makes the dough and the butter like melt together. The butter gets to accumulate with the yeast, and they get to have a few drinks, figure out they like each other, and then we're gonna get ready to make our croissants. Pause, commercial break, commercial break. If none of this makes any sense, then I'll explain it to you in the video tutorial below. So I'm going to be getting our layer of dough, and this is the 14 by 10 inch rectangle. Lay it flat on the surface. I'm going to encase it with our butter that we rolled out before. This is 7 by 10 inches. I'm going to be placing it in the middle of our dough layer. And as you can see, my butter layer is a little bit wider than my dough layer, so nothing we can't fix, guys. So what I'm going to do is just going to stretch out the dough just a little bit, just so I can encase my dough layer in it. So I'm going to move my butter layer a little bit to the middle, just so I know it's completely centered. Remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, this is my first attempt, and yeah, I think it's fun. Everybody goes through trial and error. It's not a big deal. So the next thing we're going to do is going to be rolling the top half of the dough layer, and we're going to be folding it over and making sure to tuck in the sides, just to make sure that butter layer ain't going nowhere. Alright, we got that going. And then we're going to roll the bottom half and do the same thing. So we're kind of just like making a book. And you know, the good old butter layer is in the inside. I'm going to make sure I'm sealing the ends. And that is it, my friends. We have officially encased the butter into our dough layer. I'm gonna grab a little bit of flour and I'm going to lightly brush some flour onto the dough and onto my rolling pin to make sure it doesn't get sticky. Tap off the excess. And I'm gonna be rolling my dough so it is 16 by 10 inches long. And I'm gonna be doing that with the short side facing me. So the good thing about this process is the short side should already be 10 inches long. So I'm gonna be rolling it into a pretty long rectangle that is about 16 by 10 inches long. I could even, 16 by 10 inches long, I could even go 20. I think the recipe actually calls for it to be 20 inches long. But yeah. So I'm gonna be doing that. As you can see, since we had to blend the butter with the flour in the step earlier, it makes it so much easier to encase the butter into the dough, which without it having chunks, because the butter is more pliable, almost like Play-Doh. So guys, making sure I go really hard to make sure I smooth that butter out. I want it to get an even layer. I'm going to be measuring this in just a second. Alright guys, let me get my tape measure to measure how long this bad boy is. Alright, so I got my tape measure, and so like I said, it needs to be 10 inches, so I need to roll it out a little more. And about 16 or 20 inches long. So yeah, I have a little bit more. So I'm going to just roll it out widthwise a little bit more. This process is really fun if you're ever in a bad mood. Make some croissants. It'll test your patience because it takes about 3 days to make. And yeah, guys, this is pretty fun. What would do if you had kids? Just give them, you know, tips of what to do and what you need to do. So yeah, I'm gonna pretty much roll this into a 20-inch rectangle. Those are my kids. Those are my kids and my niece in the background. If you have kids, you know exactly how your house is never quiet. And this video is no exception. So as you guys can see, this is so much easier to roll out. My butter has blended beautifully with my dough. And just want to make sure this is the right size. Let's see. Almost. It needs to be a little bit longer. It needs to be 10 inches. And alright, we about got it. So I'm going to be folding this over. And like I said before, if you don't really know how to fold it into a letter, you kind of guesstimate if you were to cut this into 3 equal sections, how much you need to fold it. So I cut this side right here. I'm going to fold it over. This looks amazing. I would definitely suggest mixing your butter with that flour. It makes it so much easier to fold instead of just, you know, getting cold butter, whacking it into the 7 by 10 inch square and putting it in. I just feel like this makes it a lot easier for the butter to melt beautifully with the dough. And then you're going to fold the bottom part over. And guys, we officially just completed your first turn. You're going to put it into the fridge and it's going to rest for about 45 minutes to an hour. And once that's done, you're pretty much going to do the same thing over again. And you're going to be doing that 3 times. And on your last turn, you're going to be putting it into the fridge overnight. I'll show you guys when that process comes. But you're going to be turning it about 3 times. This is my first turn, and I have about 3 more to go. Alright guys, I will see you in a little bit. Okay, just going to encase it in the parchment paper. I'm going to put it on a plate. Make sure your dough is completely covered and wrapped. You don't want it to create a little film where the air has gotten into the dough. So, yeah, that's it. This bad boy is going to be popping into the fridge for about 45 minutes. So we're going to continue with day 3 of the croissants. This is my dough that has been sitting in the fridge overnight, and in this section of the video, we're going to be rolling out our croissants, shaping them into the official croissant shape. And then we're going to be letting them rest at room temperature for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to pop them in the fridge for about an hour to rise the rest of the way in the fridge. Once that's done, we're going to pop the croissants into a baking tray. We're going to brush them lightly with egg wash, which is basically eggs and a little bit of water, just scrambled up. So we're going to brush them lightly with egg wash, and then we're going to put them in the oven for about 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. But if the croissants seem to be browning too quickly, then maybe like halfway through or about 3/4 of the way through, we're going to either put aluminum foil on top to stop the browning process, or we're going to just turn them down at 375 and just watch them. So yeah, let's get started. So you see these amazing layers? This is what you're looking for when you're making croissants. I may have done one too many layers, but yes, these are all the flaky bits that's going to allow our croissants to puff and rise. So the first thing the recipe tells us to do, and I have my handy dandy blog recipe right here, is we are going to need to roll this dough out into a 8 by 20 inch rectangle. So I'm going to flour my countertop right here, just to make sure nothing gets sticky. And I have my handy dandy rolling pin. I'm basically going to roll out my croissant dough into the 8 by 20 inch rectangle. If you hear a baby in the background, that's my daughter. She is walking around the kitchen. Yes, if you have kids, you know it's hardly ever quiet in your house. So yeah, I'm just going to roll this out into the 8 by 20 inch rectangle, and you can see the flakes already starting to appear. So I'm just going to flour my surface. Now mind you, I am not a professional baker. I'm just doing this because I've always wanted to make croissants, and I figured why not film a video of me attempting to make them. If they fail, they fail. If they work out really well, I'll be happy, because that was one of my goals to do by the end of the new year. Now I'm just going to get my tape measure, and I'm going to measure so far what this looks like. And so it needs to be 8 by 20, and we're not even there yet. So it's about 6.5 inches in width, and we're about 6.5 inches in length. So we're gonna keep on going, people. It's gonna take a process. So we're just gonna speed up this process because you don't want to just see me rolling this thing for the next 20 minutes or 10 minutes. So I'm gonna shut the camera off, and then I'll go back when I have this rolled out to the perfect length and width. I decided to just roll out half of the dough at a time because I think it'd be easier. So this is about an 8 by 10 inch log. It may be a little bit off, but that's okay. And then once I have this all rolled out, I'm just going to cut this vertically, and then cut this vertically in half. So I'm just gonna go get a pizza cutter, or actually no, because I want to ruin this countertop. I'm gonna just get, like, you know, a decently sharp knife, not too sharp, just so I can cut the dough. And let me go do that. So I decided to settle with the handy dandy butter knife. If this doesn't tend to cut the dough, then I'll just upgrade to a pizza cutter. But I just don't want to ruin the countertop. So I kind of measured about 4 inches from the top of the dough, and I'm just going to gently cut all the way down. And this is the first process in getting our croissants shaped. And I want to move kind of fast because I don't want the butter to be melting. So I'm just going to cut it like so. And once this is done, I'm going to be cutting the dough horizontally, and it's going to be about 4 inches wide. So I'm just going to get this measurement, measure about 4 inches wide, which is about right there. Well, technically I need to start from up here. So it's about right there. And I'm going to be cutting one little length there. Let's see. Right there. And right there. And I'm gonna be using every last bit of scrap, okay? I may roll it up into a circular tube, I don't know, but we're not gonna waste any of this. So I'm just gonna cut them down horizontally. definitely work fast because my dough is already, seems like it's going, it's getting warmer. All right, once that is done, I'm going to cut them diagonally to get my croissant shape. This part is pretty easy. If you've ever done a recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction, she does really well at explaining the steps with photos and being very thorough in her directions. So that's why I really like her blog. This one came out wonky, but that's okay. This wasn't really a perfect square. Alright guys, so the next thing I'm going to do is just get a piece of dough, and I want to work fast because, let me get a little more flour. I want to work fast. Alright, so here is my croissant dough. I'm just going to shape it out just a little bit. Put it right here. And so this is my triangle, and how you shape the croissants is you can get a knife, cut a little slit down the center, and you just roll it up. Now mind you, I'm not a professional baker. I just like to cook at home, so just rolling them up as best as I can, and it looks kind of wonky. There's a little too much flour in this one, but oh well. This one, since it's not a perfect triangle, I am just going to roll it like so. I'm going to stuff it with some chocolate. And this one is not like a perfect triangle. I'm going to stuff it with chocolate. And I'm going to stuff it with chocolate. And I'm just going to roll it up. Sometimes you just got to improvise. And that is exactly what I'm doing. Not everything's going to come out perfect. I don't have a brush to brush off the excess, so I'm just going to use my fingers. And I'm going to stack the croissants right there. I didn't flour my surface very well, so that is why my croissant dough is kind of sticking to the bottom. But nothing like a good old butter knife can't help me fix. So once again, I cut a slit down the middle. And like I said, it just makes it easier to roll up your croissant. And then there you have it. I'm going to pinch down the sides. And I'm going to stack it right here. Pinch down the sides, stack. Alright guys, this is the first batch of my croissants being rolled. As you can see, they're not perfect, but like I said, this is the first time I'm like really making croissants. And it's not going to be perfect, so I just hope they have flaky layers. And that's the most important thing that I'm trying to get here. I'm going to let them proof for about 30 minutes at room temperature, and then once that's done, I'm going to pop it in the fridge, and just on this baking sheet, just baking sheet, I'm going to pop it in the fridge, cover it up, and let it rise for another hour. Then I'm going to put the cold croissants into the oven that has already been preheated at 400 degrees, so I'm going to let it bake for about 20 minutes. Mind you, I'm going to keep track of how they're browning, and if they get too brown, I'll either turn down the oven to 375 and put aluminum foil on top just to make sure they don't get too crispy, because I like my croissants to be golden brown. Alright guys, so into the oven they go for 30 minutes to rise. One thing I forgot to mention to you guys earlier was to remember to just pinch the edge of your croissant like so, just to make sure it doesn't come undone. And how I shape them, you can either curve them like this, or you could pinch these two ends together. I don't really think it matters, just whatever your personal preference is, and I kind of did a mixture of both. And these are what this batch of croissants look like. I'm going to once again put them in the oven to proof for about another 30 minutes. And then they're going to go into the refrigerator for another hour. Alright guys, so we are finally at the last leg of the race. I just had the croissants prepping in the fridge for about an hour. The last thing you need to do is just put an egg wash. I don't have a brush, so I'm going to be using my fingers. All you need to do is brush this. Joe, you want to get a close-up on what I'm doing? Brush egg wash with the croissants on your fingers, and you pop in the oven for 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. But if the top of the croissant seems like it's browning too much, then you need to, I would just put it down for like 350, 375, and just keep an eye on it. And there you have it. I'll show you guys what it looks like when the croissants are done. Alright guys, so this is the final result of the croissants being in the oven for about 15 minutes. And they look pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Woohoo! I finally made croissants. This is awesome. You don't understand, guys? I am so proud of my work. So proud, and they taste pretty good. Hi guys, thank you for sticking with me throughout this entire video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and we're just having fun with me along the entire process. If you liked the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and a comment down below, and just let me know if there's anything that you want to attempt for the new year. Yeah, I think it's fun for us to just always try to get to the things that we want to accomplish, and if baking a croissant is one of your things like me, definitely attempt to do it. And I learned a lot through this process that I think I'm going to take with me when I make the second batch. But yeah, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!